Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here we are. We are back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It is 100 degrees in L.A. for the start of the World Series tonight. Of course, we'll have every pitch of every game right here on ESPN radios. But the Dodgers and the Astros are not the only ones bringing the heat on this Tuesday morning. How about Carson Wentz? How about Fly, Eagles, Fly? Mike Golick, your old team, as voiced by John Gruden last night, is right now the best team in the National Football League.
They are the best team in the NFL. They're a complete team in the NFL, 6-1, 2.5-game lead over Washington. They swept the season series. Now, Carson Wentz, you want to talk about the definition of first-year to second-year improvement. He is there right now, leading the league in touchdowns with 17. His escapability is just fantastic, getting out of trouble. The defense plays well. I do worry about the secondary a little bit. The running game, they have a lot of attempts, but they're not a great yardage rushing team at times, but they do get the attempts. Actually, Carson Wentz led the team in rushing last night. But they got it all going on. Bad, and we'll talk about it, bad injury with Jason Peters. They're everything left tackle. It looks like he's going to be done for the season. That certainly is going to hurt them. But they're playing very well right now. They are. They're the best team in the NFL, and the reason they're the most complete team right now in the NFL, and it shows.
Right. If you're going to look for negatives, and there's no reason to be looking for them, but there are two. One of them is the goal is not to be the best team in the NFL after 7 weeks.
Exactly right.
We see that sort of come and go all the time. And the other is the team that winds up standing at the end is going to be the one that winds up standing at the end. So you lose a critical piece. Yep. That's obviously significant. But if you just watch them play and you watch that quarterback play, you say to yourself, my goodness, how good they are. And I'm sorry to do it. I'm sorry to the people in Cleveland to do it. But every time I watch him play, the only thought I have is, there's a team that traded out of the spot of drafting him.
Could have had him. Absolutely right. The Cleveland Browns traded out and passed on Carson Wentz. Could have had that guy. Again, it's a crapshoot. We know that with quarterbacks in the first round, the odds of them hitting or not hitting. So it all goes on grade, all goes on what you feel. And in Cleveland, they had the kind of the new way of doing things, of loading up on draft picks, and that's the way they wanted to go. And, boy, they may be eating that one for a little while.
Absolutely. And now the flip side of that is so much of it also has to do with the situation that a player finds himself in.
Yes, exactly.
If you're Carson Wentz, you couldn't have found yourself in a better situation with a quarterback-friendly system and a quarterback-friendly head coach, and you listen to the praise, the unanimous praise at this point around the league for Doug Peterson and the job they've done bringing Wentz along. A lot of those things go hand in hand. Who knows what he'd be now if he'd been drafted in Cleveland.
I think, let's just say at this point, if he were in Cleveland, they probably still wouldn't be 6-1. I would feel pretty comfortable in saying that. But you do have to give a lot of credit to Doug Peterson. John Gruden broke down a great play at the goal line that Carson Wentz used a ton in college. And when he got here to the Philadelphia Eagles, he talked with Doug Peterson about, hey, this is a great play. I'd like to incorporate this. And it's about coaches understanding what their players can do and incorporating their talents. We see it in Tennessee with Mariota. You see it in other places as well, where you use the quarterback's talent from college in plays they're comfortable with, and you incorporate it into their game plan, and you can get some good results.
There are also some of the intangibles. Many of them you can't see. You can't measure what a guy's going to be like when he's gotten hit 12 times and he's got to get up there and still throw a big pass on third down. Maybe you can't tell that from meetings and interviews. But what you can tell, and the thing I think you can tell anyway, and the thing that everyone says about him is the extraordinary professionalism. I mean, the first guy in, last guy out, all that kind of stuff. But right now, Carson Wentz, who has played all of 23 games in the National Football League, if you were to stop the league right now and say, who's the MVP, would it be him?
I think right now I have two awards that are done. He's the MVP, and Josh Adams from Notre Dame is the Heisman winner. I think we have those two awards pretty much locked up, right?
All of a sudden, Golick cares about the Heisman.
It's the greatest award of all time.
All you've done is criticize the Heisman. Ever since the day Tim Brown walked off the podium with one is the last time you cared about it.
But if you're going to give it out, okay, I know they're listen, every December they give this thing out every year, so if you're going to do it, let's give it to the right guy.
So maybe we'll give that one to the Notre Dame kid. And is Wentz right now the current favorite for the MVP? There's only one player in Eagles history who was named the MVP by the Associated Press. It was not Mike Golick.
No, it was not.
It was not Reggie White.
No, it was not.
It was not Randall Cunningham.
No, it was not.
Someone who played a lot longer ago than that. Do you know who it was?
I don't.
It was Norm Van Brocklin in 1960.
It's a couple of years ago.
Is the only Eagle ever to be named the league MVP. Right now, I think if he were to stop the league right now, it would be Brady and Wentz. I think.
I agree.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, Brady was carrying a bad defense.
Kareem Hunt is going to get some votes for even though he's a rookie for what he's doing, but he's not going to be he's not going to be up with those guys. But it's a name at least you should mention. And we've got a lot more season to go. But I would say those two guys, yes, Brady and Wentz.
And so there you have it after the Monday Nighter. Let's get going here with Off the Top, and we'll start with some basketball. And the Greek Freak just keeps putting up ridiculous numbers for the Milwaukee Bucks. Mike, he is now the betting favorite for league MVP in Las Vegas.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Antetokounmpo.
Wanted to get the name. I tried in there. Second player in NBA history to average at least 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists over his team's first 4 games of the season. Joining happened a long time ago, gang. Last year, Russell Westbrook did it. So,
and what did Russell Westbrook wind up doing?
Yeah, he ended up being the league MVP. We keep talking about this guy and what he is and when he's going to rise up and be the guy. We know the top players, obviously Westbrook, Harden, who was right there, Durant, LeBron, all guys, that have the hardware like that. And this guy Antetokounmpo his athletic ability is ridiculous for his size and what he's able to do. So he's fun to watch individually. Let's see what he can do with the team as well.
We keep talking about guys who are going to change the league, right? Anthony Davis was going to change the league, and Karl Anthony Towns is going to change the league, and Joel Embiid is going to change the league, and Kristaps Porzingis is going to change the league. This guy's the guy.
Well, and when you can be put in with another name like this, he has 147 points overall this season, passing some guy named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for most in Bucks history through the team's first 4 games of a season. How much more can you change it? I mean, we see big guys playing away from the basket. Basically, he's a big guy that may be the best, most athletic big guy. I don't know how you change a game anymore with how great athletes these guys are.
The thing is that when we talk about guys like Davis and particularly Towns, we say they're the bigs that almost have some guard skills. This guy's a guard. I mean, if you told him he had to play guard, he could. And at 6'11" or whatever it is that he is, he's ridiculous. He is genuinely the Greek freak. Speaking of which, Ben Simmons is a legit 7 feet tall. He had his first career triple-double last night, and something tells me, Mike, it won't be his last.
Yeah, the only other players in NBA history who had triple-doubles within their first 4 games in the league were the Big O, Oscar Robertson, in his debut for the Cincinnati Royals back in 1960, and Hambone Williams in his 4th game for the San Diego Rockets in 1967. We wanted to see Ben Simmons. We got a couple of guys that just have come into the league. Fultz, who's the number 1 pick this past year, and Simmons, who didn't go to the NCAA tournament. Simmons missed all of last year. If you go to Philly, that's kind of how it works. And he's come out of the gate strong. How about Joel Embiid, what he did? His teammate in just his 34th NBA game after signing a monster deal scored 30 points in Philly's win. So he had a triple-double by one and 30 points by another. We've talked about the youth there, and if they can bring it together of how they could rise up in the league, I still think it's going to take a little bit of time, but boy, the future seems pretty bright there.
Off the top.
Meanwhile, the future for Eric Bledsoe is elsewhere. And the circumstances of this thing in Phoenix are crazy. Now, there's a lot of teams out there that would like Eric Bledsoe. He's a good player. He's not going to be on the Suns anymore, and the circumstances of his departure are really remarkable.
They really are. So he's a guy, now let's put it in context a little bit. He's a guy before the season that wanted out. He wanted to be traded before the season started, so you kind of knew that about him. But then he posted a tweet that simply said, "I don't want to be here." And basically,
bear in mind, this is right after they fired their coach after 3 games.
Right. And
I think it's important to put that in context because everyone will immediately look at it and think that's the reason he tweeted it.
Their GM, Ryan McDonough, said that he talked to Bledsoe and after the conversation didn't believe him in saying when Bledsoe said he didn't want to be here when he was referring to being at a hair salon with his girl and he didn't want to be there anymore. That's what he said he meant by, I don't want to be here. McDonough, the GM, didn't believe him. He's not part of the team anymore. They'll look to trade him. Interesting little note here, by the way, is if you look at his timeline, Eric Bledsoe is a very big tweeter with no context. You'll see that in his timeline where you just see prayers or tired today or no context around some of his tweets.
Right. Meaning something like, I don't want to be here.
Isn't out of what he has done, what we've seen in his timeline. Now, that said, I don't believe him, and Ryan McDonough, the GM, doesn't believe him, but wouldn't it be interesting if that were true? And like my son said this morning on a show, First and Last, it's refreshing if he is lying, it's refreshing that he didn't use the I got hacked line, and he came up with something a little different.
Yeah, and if he's telling the truth,
wouldn't that be something?
Then it doesn't mean that they shouldn't still trade him.
Right. He did want to be traded, talked about wanting to be traded before the season started, so it doesn't seem he's very happy.
We have reports that the Knicks are one of the teams interested in him.
Top.
Okay, World Series begins tonight. As we mentioned, I got a million stats for you, but the most interesting one right off the bat is that it's 100 degrees in Los Angeles.
Yes, it is.
And Dallas Keuchel is going to be pitching with quite a large beard. I can't imagine the amount of perspiration that will be dripping from the Astros starter by the bottom of the first.
Yeah, they're talking about the game time for this being 96 degrees. The warmest World Series game in that span was Game 1 in 2001 World Series, Arizona and the Yankees and Diamondbacks. It was 94 degrees at the start of that game.
It's a dry heat, though. It's Arizona.
Well, it is a dry heat. There is definitely something to that, but it is hot. And 96 degrees is going to be hot. So we'll see. I would rather play in cold weather any day of the week.
But you played football.
But I played football. How about last year, though, between Chicago and Cleveland? You
had some chilly nights.
Don't look like you're going to get that here in the two places you're going to play in Houston and in L.A. So, and then as far as numbers, this is the first World Series matchup of 100-win teams since 1970. You go back to that one, Orioles and the Reds in 1970. Last time you had 200-win teams.
That surprised me. I've seen that stat, a little bit as we lead up to this. I would have thought it would have happened more recently than that, but it hasn't. And the one thing about the two things, I guess, you would have to consider with the temperature. One, does that impact the starters? Right? I mean, you got Kershaw and Keuchel. So here's a pitching matchup that you're dying to see. Does it speed up fatigue? Do they get into such a zone that it almost doesn't make any difference? I don't know. We'll see if that causes them to be shorter starts. And the other is, anyone who plays golf knows the hotter it is, the more the ball carries.
That's exactly right.
So do we see the ball carry a little bit in the ballpark tonight?
Yeah, again, and we have a ton of numbers. The seventh inning for Clayton Kershaw in the postseason isn't very good. What's his ERA? 25.
Yeah.
I believe it's
He's not kidding. It's literally that.
It is literally 25. I'm not even making that up.
Yeah.
And the great note about the Astros, it's their second World Series. In the first one, they were swept by the White Sox in the 2005 World Series, which means they were in the National League.
Yeah,
and now
they're the first team ever to represent both leagues in the World Series. And then finally, the Eagles beating Washington last night to improve to a league best 6-1 this year. Let's make that off the top with us, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. The Eagles, who put some space between themselves and the entirety of the NFC East, and bear in mind they now own a season sweep of Washington. So they're not only in front of the Skins, they're very comfortably in front of them. Dallas, let's see what they are with Zeke Elliott. He's in, he's out, he's playing, he's not playing. I don't know how much you read into the fact that they destroyed a very bad San Francisco team this week. So let's forget about whether the Eagles are the best team in the league or not, because A, we don't know, and B, it doesn't really matter. But are they very much in the driver's seat in the NFC East, which is a good first step? They absolutely are. And show me another team that's in the driver's seat in an NFC division. I defy you to. You won't be able to do it.
No, you won't be able to do it. They are in total control of their division. They're playing like as the best team in football right now. And you love the way Carson Wentz is spreading the ball around for the second time this year. 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. I mean, that's beautiful when you can't zero in on the one guy, even though the one guy, if you're going to zero in, is going to be the guy he has the great relationship with, and that's Zach Ertz,
right?
The tight end. Zach Ertz has 5 touchdowns this year. That's tops amongst tight ends. And as we mentioned, Wentz was also the leading rusher with 64 yards. Watching him get out of some of the issues or some of the positions that he was in when you thought the Redskins had 3 sacks on him and could have had a few more. But I know a couple of times they thought the whistle was going to blow. They thought they had him in their grasp, but he got out and the whistle didn't blow. Play went on and he made something happen, whether by running or by throwing. He is really resilient from that. And man, he just looks so comfortable and in command in that pocket.
There were a couple of moments in last night's game that I actually thought of you. The touchdown that he throws where he kind of maneuvers himself around in the pocket a bunch of times and then lofts it in the right corner of the end zone. In the NFL, 10 years ago, I don't think that play is a touchdown. And the reason is because 10 years ago, he is getting annihilated on that play. And right now, if you watch a lot of games, and I saw it a couple of times last night, I feel like defenders are so conscious of how they're hitting the quarterback, where they're hitting the quarterback, that sometimes I feel, and look, this is, I think, the way the league wants it. The quarterback is taking advantage of that. He's less afraid. Now, again, the kid is obviously very tough.
Yes, he is.
But he's also not afraid to stand in there because he knows they can't hit him in the head. He knows they can't hit him in the knee. And, there was a time when he would have just gotten so drilled on that play that maybe it would have been a touchdown, but he would not have played the rest of the game.
Defenders are in a tough position, whether it's DBs on where to hit a receiver, defenseless player, as they say, and yes, I'm using air quotes, or hit the quarterback. You're right. We saw more than a few calls on Sunday where I'm just like, are you kidding? It's a tackle of the quarterback and a flag comes out. So, yeah, making defenders a little bit gun shy. I get it because A, you don't want to cost your team 15 yards, and B, you don't want to be fined. Because if you hit him in the head, it doesn't matter what the situation is, you're at fault if that were to happen. Bottom line is it's 17 touchdown passes in the first 7 games. So the most touchdown passes in the first 7 games in a first or second year player in NFL history. The leader all time back in 1999, Kurt Warner with 21, 1984, Dan Marino with 20, 2000, Jeff Garcia with 19. And tied next in 2017 and 1957 are Carson Wentz and Johnny Unitas.
Wow.
Within their first or second year, 17 touchdowns in the first 7 games. So they got it going on right now. They really do. And again, both offensively and defensively playing extremely well.
Steve Young and Charles Woodson after the game, impressed.
No question. I mean, they're playing. The Redskins didn't fall down. I mean, Kirk Cousins had a good game. I mean, they need some players, but
they're pretty even in a lot of categories.
What we just talked about offensive defensively, there's no place the Eagles can't pack their bags and go and beat somebody anywhere.
I think I would have to agree, and it all lies on Carson Wentz's shoulder. You talk about Pennsylvania, before. Man, he is directing and directing this show, man, and he's doing a great job. So, Philadelphia Eagles, they're the team.
He is directing the show, sitting there with 17 touchdowns. Alex Smith has 15 touchdowns. Tom Brady has 15 touchdowns. So they do have it going on right now, but it's also a game of attrition. And you remember last year, Lane Johnson, their right tackle, he was lost for 10 games by suspension. And that it certainly changed for the Eagles because that O-line had been playing well. And it changed when he was out for those games. And last night, so this is the negative side of it. We can talk a lot of glowing positive things, and they had the 49ers coming to town this week. So quite honestly, it should be another win for them. They should keep rolling. But it's not about now. When you're 6-1, you take obviously each game one at a time, but you realize the goals that you're going for, that you're trying to achieve, and where you need to be at the end of the season. And it looks like that their Pro Bowl, All-Pro, all-everything left tackle Jason Peters won't be a part of it. He got rolled up on one of those plays where he's just pass blocking and all the trash that happened behind him ends up right into his legs, and they have to immobilize his knee and cart him off the field. Brandon Scherff, the All-Pro, Pro Bowl right guard for the Washington Redskins, same thing happened to him. He was walking around on the sideline, but he didn't come back in, so we have to see about his injury as well. That's the O-lineman. That's what you fear the most, because you have no idea what's coming. You're blocking, and all of a sudden somebody falls into the side of your legs or the back of your legs, and you're done. And that's what it looks like it's going to be for Jason Peters. Understand something. two of the best left tackles in this game, both have been to 9 Pro Bowls, have been Jason Peters and Joe Thomas. And within a day apart, they're both done for the season. Joe Thomas, after 10,363 plays, tears his triceps. He's done for the year. And here's the difference. I believe, and he was 2003, and I think Peters was 2004 in the draft. So Joe Thomas was the number 3 pick overall in the draft. So out of Wisconsin, the expectations were very high, right? Of course. He was a tackle in college. He was a tackle in the pros and never left that spot. Jason Peters, this is how it works sometimes with players. I believe it was 2004 that he was drafted, 9 Pro Bowls. He's 35 years old. He's from Arkansas. He was a tight end at Arkansas. He went undrafted as a tight end at Arkansas. And so I got a $5,000 signing bonus and became a left tackle and became one of the great left tackles through his era without question. So 2 guys, the best at their position for a number of years, came into the league a year apart, came at it differently, but the end result the same is they're some of the best in the league.
And unfortunately now, as you mentioned, we know that Thomas is done for the year, and we haven't gotten a full status report on Peters, but you could see.
You could see, and you probably have Lane Johnson now flip over to the left side, but now you're shuffling your line a little bit, and we'll see where it goes, and we'll check out their depth. Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Kenny Killian tweets early at us through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Hot is better than freezing and snow. I hated when the Tigers were in the World Series wearing ninja masks. Mike, what did you say Mikey's poll was this morning?
Mike's poll was 100 or 10. Would you rather watch a sporting event in 100 degrees or in 10 degrees? Now, at baseball, I mean...
You wouldn't want to see a baseball game. I don't think they play in 10 degrees.
Exactly.
And you wouldn't want to see a baseball game played in that. So
no.
That's but purely for the fan experience. So let's put it in the context of football. You really wouldn't want to play a football game in 100 degrees either.
No, you would not.
But the game in Miami with the Jets and the Dolphins this past weekend, it looked like it was incredibly hot.
Hate it. Hate the heat. Hate the humidity. The poll, by the way, was 51% said 10 degrees, 49 100. So almost split there. Again, it depends on the sport. In football, I'd be interested. That's really the one. If you're a fan, would you rather be in 10 degrees or 100 degrees? I mean, the thing about 10 degrees is you can put clothes on. You can layer. 100 degrees, you can only take so much off.
Can I ask a caveat?
Go ahead.
Is that 10 degrees inclusive of wind chill, or is that like a 10-degree temperature? Because it can be 10 degrees, but feels like negative 21.
Yeah. No.
In that case, I'll take 100.
10 degrees with wind chill, the
then
whole
I'll
deal.
Take 10 degrees. Then I'll take 10. Because that's not that cold. I mean, it's cold, but that's the kind of cold you can manage with a bunch of sweaters and coats and scarves.
Sitting next to people.
Negative 21. Once you start getting down to that stuff.
I'm with you.
That's when it's just no fun at all.
Yeah, well, the coldest game I played was in the Meadowlands. The wind chill was in the negative teens, and it was cold. And I, was that dumb macho guy that would never wear a long sleeve shirt onto my jersey and my pads, and I didn't in that one. And it was just dumb. I mean,
we would go to those games, my dad and I, when I was a kid at Shea Stadium where the wind would blow through, and I don't have any idea what the actual coldest game was. And those days, I don't think anyone even knew. It was just cold as could possibly be outside. But we would always stay. I told you, we never left the game. If it was 31-0, we're not leaving before it ended. And my mother would load us up with coats, and we had a big blanket that we had in the trunk of the car that we'd bring in, and I would have like a thermos. My mother would make like chicken You know, like bouillon, like
we'd have that at halftime. We would have at cold games when I was playing at halftime as players, we'd have the bouillon, yes.
That's when I learned what a flask was. Because my dad and I are drinking chicken broth, and the guys in front of us are like drinking out of a flask. I remember asking my father, I was like 7, what are they drinking, Dad?
A different kind of broth.
That's when I learned what that was. Anyway, keep the Twitter coming in, and again, it's going to be a hashtag Too Far Tuesday, so let's hear those as well. For example, Bucky J tweets one. I don't think this is anywhere near too far. He tweets, Clayton Kershaw will struggle for 4 2/3, and the Astros win on the road for Game 1. That's not too far at all.
I don't think that's too far. That's what we're waiting for with Kershaw is to come through in the postseason. So we'll see. Again, the 7th inning in the postseason, his ERA is literally 25. So, I mean, something to keep an eye on if he were to get that far in the game. But this is the matchup you're looking for. You're looking for Kershaw against Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge. I'm saying if the Yankees say Aaron Judge. I'm saying like Correa and Altuve. Yeah. And, I mean, I'm just the hitting on both sides, to which we had Buster Olney on yesterday, and he said, the hitting he thought was kind of a pick-em for both teams. So it will be, and in the heat, we know the offense, the ball will fly a little more. So how much more will it fly? I still get a kick out of Altuve every time he's at bat when I look at him, thinking this guy is 5'6". This guy's going to be your AL MVP. He's 5'6", but man, he is fun to watch.
He is, and I was talking to someone about him over the weekend. He's short, but he's not small.
No, he's not. He's not.
Agreed. If you look at him, he's kind of stocky. Yep. And look, he's just a great player. What can you say? He's a great player.
Well, he is. And the difference of him and then Correa at shortstop, who's 6'4", this good-looking big athlete, and then Altuve at second base, all 5'6" of them.
So the other thing that's interesting to watch in this series, just to start throwing numbers out there, I was going to get to it in a minute anyway, so let's do it here. In a sport, at a time in the sport where everyone is either hitting home runs or striking out, the Astros don't strike out.
No.
They're the one team in the whole sport that doesn't strike out, or at least they strike out the least. I have stacks and stacks of stats for you leading into these games, and Hembo put together some really good nerd notes as well. But the Astros struck out in only 17% of their plate appearances in the regular season, the lowest in baseball. Now, the fact that that's the lowest in baseball is in and of itself pretty funny, if you think about it.
Yes.
They struck out almost 1 out of every 5 at-bats, and that's the lowest in baseball. But that's where we are right now. So, by comparison, they don't strike out all the time. The Dodgers want to strike. Kershaw wants to throw it right past you and through you. So it's a fascinating matchup. I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well. Yeah.
I know that, the TV networks probably were hoping the Yankees would get in.
Yep.
What are you going to do? It's a great matchup. Both teams won 100 games. They were the best teams in their respective league. Well, actually, Cleveland was the best team in the American League.
Let's not open that wound. But yeah, I'm with you. So I am looking forward to it. So the Too Far Tuesday certainly can include the World Series as well. Just like some of these have. We'll give away a couple of bobbleheads for the best Too Far Tuesdays.
Daryl tweets, my wish for an all-Pennsylvania Super Bowl is a real possibility.
I was asked that. I went out with Sean Salisbury, old buddy. I went on his show because we had a bet on the USC Notre Dame game, and now he owes me dinner when we see each other at the Super Bowl.
That's all you got was dinner. But a lot of our bets are,
listen,
Sean doesn't have to shave his head or anything.
No, we're gonna let Sean go on that one. Bragging rights in that one is fantastic. Yeah. So especially the way Notre Dame beat them. So that'll work. Every bite of food I take, I'll be talking trash about that game.
All right, if I told you right now, the state of Pennsylvania will be represented in this year's Super Bowl, but once, not twice, which one you taking?
Well, first off, he had asked me the 2 best teams right now, and I had said Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. I think the way Pittsburgh, and we know what you get out of their offense. We know what they can do. Their defense is playing lights out.
They're playing much better.
They are playing lights out right now. And to me, that's going to be the big difference because you can get something out of that offense.
Are they going to trade Martavis Bryant?
I don't know.
I ran into Ryan Clark in the hallway yesterday, and he said to me, look, the Steelers don't make a habit of trading away good players. Just
no, they don't.
He wants to get traded.
Listen.
Now, from what it appears from the outside, and again, I don't want to cast aspersions, it appears he's really trying to force their hand, right? All of a sudden he wants to be traded, then he's calling in sick.
Which he's done before.
He wants out of there. There's just all that noise around the Steelers. That when they win, it sort of quiets down a little bit.
It does. Listen, if they think this guy can give them a couple of catches a game and help toward the win, they're not going to trade him. How much of a distraction will he make himself become if he wants to do that off the field? We'll have to wait and see. But, they're not in the habit of just saying, oh, you're not happy? We're sure. Where do you want to go? We'll trade you there. So
If we want to say the three best teams in the AFC are Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and New England, they have this funny thing where they each kind of have each other's number.
Right.
Right? The perception is Kansas City has New England's number. New England has Pittsburgh's number, and Pittsburgh has Kansas City's number. That's the way it works. So the matchups, depending on how they fall, might have a lot to do with where it goes. What other team crashes that party? Houston?
Who are the sleepers in there?
Well, is Houston a sleeper?
How about Buffalo?
Okay. I mean, I'm willing to have that conversation with you.
But you're asking me right now, and Sean asked me last night, I'd say Pittsburgh because of the way their defense is playing. I'm still not sold on the defense of the Patriots, which played better, no doubt about it. And the weapons, obviously, they have on offense. So while I picked New England at the beginning of the season, you ask me now, I'd lean toward Pittsburgh. I won't completely dismiss my preseason picks, but going now, I look at them. And then I don't think, how can you not go with Philadelphia in the NFC? I think that's the easier choice. Who else you saying in the NFC? Aaron Rodgers is gone, so you're certainly not saying Green Bay. So where else?
New Orleans outscore them? Could the Rams beat them? Are the Rams? Could you imagine if it comes down to Goff against Wentz?
There's the sleeper with the Rams, man, and what they're doing. Again, the defense is ranked lower, but they have a ton of sacks. I like Philly's defense. The secondary nerves me a little bit there.
Goff and Wentz at this moment, and again, it's Too Far Tuesday. Okay, so let's go a little bit too far. How far are we willing to go? Are Goff and Wentz going to create the kind of quarterback, the kind of talk about a quarterback draft, two guys who were drafted in the same year and will always be compared to each other, et cetera? Are they on the verge of doing that in a way that, right now, which is the better quarterback draft? Jameis and Mariota at the top or Goff and Wentz?
Well, wow.
Only 1 year separates them, right? Jameis and Mariota were just 1 year. Are they 1 or 2 years older? I think they're just one. This is just their third year? Right? Jameis and Mariota.
Yes, it's their
Time goes by
third year.
So darn fast, it's kind of hard to keep track of it sometimes. This is their third year, and this is Wentz and Goff second. Which is the better top of the quarterback draft?
What a great question that is. I mean, you go arrows now. You're going to Wentz and Goff
this week,
right? Yeah. Arrows, which is I think they're both arrow up. It's which one is one may be at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, the other may be at 12 o'clock. Which arrow is pointing higher if you want to delineate there.
Let's talk about it as we continue. Use the hashtag #TooFarTuesday. We got that working all morning long. We'll give away some bobbleheads as well. I still have to play you Louis Riddick talking about Carson Wentz. I still have to play you Dallas Keuchel talking about how his beard might get in the way, and we still have to get to two players who offered apologies even though they had nothing to be sorry for. All right, we got a ton of really good Twitter here. Too Far Tuesday, hashtag Too Far Tuesday has really become my favorite day of the week. Here's one from Ryan Guffey. He tweets, Too Far Tuesday, Michigan fires Harbaugh. He comes to Indy to coach Luck. Ooh. There's no way in the world Michigan fires Harbaugh, and I don't believe, and I don't think you do either, that he leaves there until maybe winning a national championship is too far.
Winning the Big Ten, beating Ohio State. I mean, things I talked about at the beginning of the year when everybody thought I was calling for his job, which I clearly was not.
Right.
I was saying
I don't think and no one who listened to you thought you were calling for his job.
Well,
you were just asking a question.
You should have read some of the tweets from Michigan fans about that.
Well, because that, you know what it is, that's a game of telephone.
I get it.
Where someone tells someone. The next thing you know, Golick, who was wondering aloud when the Michigan faithful would demand wins in big games.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, that comes out to Golick says he's going to get fired, which is
ridiculous.
He didn't say anything close
I
to.
think he ends up back in the NFL, but I don't think he ends up back there until he at least has exhausted his opportunities to, make Michigan the Big Ten champ, to beat Ohio State, and because he's already turned that program around to what it was when he got there. But now he needs to take that next step with him, and I think that he wants to do that before he heads back to the NFL.
Anyway, read me one more that you like here of these. Get on to some other business.
I do like the I like that one. The Cowboys reclaim their dominant swag and take over the NFC East from Philly.
Hashtag Too Far Tuesday.
That's going to be an interesting one because Philly's playing well right now with Zeke. Zeke is played great last week. But you don't know what's going to go on. For all we know, after the next game, he could be on the bench. He could be suspended. So we don't know that. And that will be – you kind of have to wait and see how that one plays out because that will have a great effect on their team.
I also hate to say this, but don't read too much into the Cowboys' performance against San Francisco. A lot of teams are going to put up a lot of big numbers against the 49ers. They're 0-7 for a reason. When do those teams play? I'm looking this up here.
By the way, Philly
play each other. They play home. They play in Dallas on a Sunday night, November 19th, and then they play the last game of the season. So December 31st, they finish the season at Philly. Do you see that game being for the division? Do you think Dallas puts together a good enough second half that game is for the division?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say I think Philly's going to have it wrapped up by then.
I'm going to say yes. I think the Cowboys are going to start winning games. I think it's going to get closer. Look, I mean, everything I picked in that division is wrong. I have the Giants winning that division,
right,
and they may wind up with the number one pick in the draft with the way everything is going. I did pick the Eagles to make the playoffs, but at this point, Nostradamus, I most certainly am not. Mm-hmm. So if you're asking me what my gut feeling is right now, I think the Cowboys are better than they've played, and I think they'll play their way back into contention. Mike and all the Too Far Tuesday Twitter through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes up for a football obsession like bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen red or assorted roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen plus a vase absolutely free. So go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Okay, two players said they were sorry. In at least one of the cases, I don't think he had anything at all to be sorry
I agree. I thought I was going to say play the one because you had teased that neither one should had to do that, and we're going to disagree on that if you truly feel that way on T.Y. Hilton.
Right, we're going to disagree on that one. I may have gone a little too far Tuesday with that. There's the old truth is the best defense.
Yeah.
Like you can't, we'll go start with that one then since you bring it up. So T.Y. Hilton after the game basically threw the offensive line under the bus.
He gave up 10 sacks. He jumped, he jumped them.
And should he have done it? Obviously no. But in the world of journalism, in the world of media, which is in libel and slander, truth is the absolute defense. So just put the tape on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not just this week, but every week
of
the offensive line play for the Colts, and you'll realize T.Y. Hilton was every bit right in what he said. Yesterday he apologized.
I'd like to apologize to the team and the O-line. It was out of character. I'm frustrated, how the game went. But at the end of the day, man, I got their back. I love them to death. And, I was wrong, I'm always against that, and then I go out there and do it. So 100% I messed up, all me. And I'm sorry for that. And, I'm a leader. Those guys look up to me, and I kind of stabbed them in the back.
Yeah, listen, he was exactly right about their play and exactly wrong to chastise them publicly without question. You know who knows that they played poorly? The offensive line. And and this is because I'm sure a lot of people are like, he's just telling the truth. What's the big deal? You know what the big deal is? Wednesday and Thursday, when the media come in there or they're talking to the networks and about, going through their game plans and all that, and they're asked, hey, what did you think about T.Y. Hilton about what he said about you guys? T.Y., why did you say that about those guys? Who were you talking about? Are you talking about anybody in particular? That's why you don't do it, because you don't need that crap to keep going. You're already a bad team. Everybody knows when you're in that meeting room who's wearing the hat of responsibility. There's a lot of people, including the offensive line. They know they're not playing well. Everybody on that team knows they're not playing well. Hell, watch the game. You can see they're not playing well. You don't need a player to say that publicly. It just leads to questions that you don't need to deal with. So the best thing to do is you take the arrow as a team. We got to get better. And believe me, they're hearing it in the meeting rooms for the mistakes they're making. You do not need to do it publicly. So I'm happy he came out and he apologized and realized he was wrong for doing that.
Yes, you're right. I know you're right.
Yeah.
And still,
yeah.
Did you see much of that game? Red Zone didn't go to it much.
No,
it was 34-0. But I mean, Jacoby Brissett is running for his life back there. There were people asking him after the game, why didn't you come out of the game? It's not safe to play quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts right now. That's how bad the offense against a great Jacksonville pass.
Bad. It's bad. Yeah, not the first week we've seen a bad O-line play there.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have said it. He was right to say I'm sorry, but I kind of get it. The next one, I don't get at all. We'll get to that and more off the top of the next hour. Mike and Mike.